representing the 6 million Jews who perished during the Holocaust.
To light the first candle, may we call on the deathbed secretary, Honorable Leonor Magtolis Briones.
DFA Acting Secretary, Ms. Ma Teresa Lazaro.
May we call on our United Nations Resident Coordinator, Mr. Gustavo Gonzalez, for the lighting of the third candle.
For the fourth candle, may we call on His Excellency Ambassador Ilan Flus.
May we call on His Excellency Ambassador Anker Reifenstuhl for the lighting of the fifth candle.
To light the sixth and last candle, may we call on the Executive Director of the Jewish Association of the Philippines, Mr. Lee Blumenthal.
May these candles comfort the souls of those who perished and the hearts of their families, and continuously remind us to protect, promote, and value memory, dignity, and justice. To lead us in the prayer, may we call on Mr. Moshe Alkabi from the Jewish Association of the Philippines.
We will say Ashkava. Ana Adonai Malei Rachamim, Asher be'yadcha nefesh kol chai veruach kol besar ish. Yehi na leratzon lefanecha, Toratenu ותפילתנו בעבור נשמותיהם של מאות ריבו מישראל, נער וזקן, אנשים ונשים וטף, שנהרגו על קידוש השם, שנשחטו, שנחנקו ונשרפו לעפר על ידי הצוררים הגרמנים יימח שמם, ביניהם ארזי הלבנון ואדירי התורה, קדושים וטורים, ראשי ישיבות ותלמידיהם, תינוקות ישראל שלא טעמו טעם חטא, וצדיקי עולם, קהילות הקודש, שמסרו נפשם על קדושת השם. יזכרם אלוהינו לטובה עם שאר צדיקי עולם, וינקום נקמת דם עבדיך שפוך, ככתוב בתורת משה איש האלוהים, הרנינו גויים עמו, כי דם עבדיו יקום, ונקם ישיב לצריו, וכיפר אדמתו עמו. תהי נשמתם צרורה בצרור החיים, להחיותם בתחיית המתים, עם כל מתי עמך ישראל ברחמים, ושלח לנו משיח צדקנו, במהרה בימינו, אמן.
In view of this commemoration, may we now listen to our keynote speaker. She is the incumbent Minister of Education of the Philippines and Professor Emeritus of the University of the Philippines, National College of Public Administration and Governance. Her academic and professional competencies range from business administration, accounting, public finance, public policy and administration. She was the secretary to the Commission on Audit and served as treasurer of the Philippines. Furthermore, she is an articulate advocate on economic and social development issues. She was a former president of Freedom from Debt Coalition, lead convener of Social Watch Philippines, and coordinator of Social Watch Asia and Social Watch International. She combines the roles of distinguished academic and teacher, public official, and social activist. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker, the Secretary, Department of Education, Republic of the Philippines. Please welcome the Honorable Secretary Leonor Magtolis Briones.
Thank you very much for the fulsome introduction. In DepEd, we all know that I don't read prepared speeches as much as possible because I endeavor to react and to reflect on all that have been brought out by my fellow speakers as well as the lessons that I have learned. The Israeli people, the Jewish peoples have always been very close and very dear to the Philippines since most of us are Christian and are familiar with aspects of Jewish history. However, it is sad to note that the Holocaust is hardly noticed, except in literature, in poetry, in film, and in song, which have permeated our social activities here in the Philippines. I knew about the coming of the Jewish people, the refugees who came to the Philippines, because one family settled in my home island of Negros Oriental, and they lead in many of the political, social, and educational activities of my province, a very well-known family. But it is not so the rest of the country. It's not so for our learners. I first visited Israel in 1970s when I was secretary to the Commission on Audit. And later on, whenever I would be asked, out of the many countries that you have visited, which country affected you in the most profound and really deep-seated manner? And I would always answer Israel and the Jewish people as a student of the Bible and as a friend of the Jewish people, as well as someone who was very impressed with the advances, with the practices in governance, which is my field of public administration. And now it is the year 2022. If I will be asked the same question, which country which I have visited had touched me in the most profound manner, my answer would be the same. In that visit of mine to Israel, this was during the 1970s, nearly 50 years ago, but of course my memory is still quite sharp. And there were two occasions when I wept and when I cried. The first occasion was when I visited the Museum of the Holocaust. I visited many places in Israel, the Museum of the Scroll of the Book, the place where the certain archaeological findings were uncovered, which shed light also on the Christian religion, and many places mentioned in the Bible. But I was very moved and touched, and I cried when I visited the museum. You see movies, films, you hear music, but when you see the photographs of hundreds of thousands of those who perished and who were deliberately eliminated, when you see the various objects which are created from their bodies, then it really makes a difference. The other occasion was possibly related, and this was when I visited Masada. There are now debates about Masada, but again, there is emphasis on the spirit of the Jewish people, the refusal to be conquered by a foreign entity or a foreign imperialist country. And I found that very moving, even as I said, there are now debates about Masada. And so I bring these memories with me by visit to Israel. And I also saw the film that was made by a Filipino director on how President Quezon, made the decision to bring in Jewish refugees to the Philippines and to welcome them. Again, I wept. And I wondered how many at the time I just assumed my position as Secretary of Education. I wondered how many Filipinos, particularly young learners, know about the humane act of then President Quezon. A small, poor country predominated by another faith, another religion, welcoming those who need shelter, welcoming those who are fleeing from oppression and genocide. And I thought that perhaps it is high time that we teach our learners, and even as we worry about many challenges, especially the pandemic, even as we worry about what is happening all over the world and in other countries and peoples being discriminated against, I believe that it is also appropriate for our children to be taught that one does not have to be the richest country in the world. One does not have to have so much to be able to help and to extend shelter. And we have done that on several occasions as a country. And so I'm very grateful. I would like to greet not only our Secretary of the Department of Education of Foreign Affairs, who has always helped us out in our international activities, our acting secretary, our ambassador of the State of Israel, the German ambassador, our friends in the international community, and also our friends in the Philippine community of scholars, of Filipinos, of those who want to share not only bad news, terrible news, gossip, but also to share the good news of being humane, the good news of accepting people, the good news of non-discrimination, and the good news of human virtues, whether one is Christian, Jewish, or Muslim. So I'd like to greet Rene Escalante of the National Historical Commission. I hope we'll be able to produce more materials on what we did and the role of the Philippines, small as we are.